Hello everyone, I hope you've had a really nice day. And hello to our mice and hello to our seashells. Now, the mice this week are going to be learning about all sorts of different countries where you can travel to around the world, finding out about what people do, how they live in those different countries. Our story today is one where two friends travel all the way around the world. So, are you ready for a story time? It's story time, it's story time. Shh, listen, what's going on? Today's story is called The Snail and the Whale. It's by Julia Donaldson and Axel Scheffler. Some of you might know The Gruffalo. Julia Donaldson has written that as well. This is the tale of a tiny snail and a great big grey-blue humpback whale. There's the snail. This is a rock as black as soot, and this is a snail with an itchy foot. The sea snail slithered all over the rock and gazed at the sea and the ships in the dock. And as she gazed, she sniffed and sighed. The sea is deep and the world is wide. How I long to sail, said the tiny snail. And there is the sea where she lives. These are the other snails in the flock, who all stuck tight to the smooth black rock and said to the snail with the itchy foot, "Be quiet, don't wriggle, sit still, stay put." But the tiny sea snail sniffed and sighed, then cried, "I've got it, I'll hitch a lift." This is the trail of the tiny snail, a silvery trail that looped and curled and said, ooh, some writing here. Lift wanted around the world. I know some of you have been beginning to learn to write, just like the snail. Who's this coming? This is the whale who came one night when the tide was high and the stars were bright. A humpback whale, immensely long, who sang to the snail a wonderful song of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves. And this is the tale of the humpback whale. He held it out of the starlit sea, and he said to the snail, "Come sail with me." And there he is, lifting up the snail using his tail. This is the sea, so wild and free, that carried the whale and the snail on his tail to towering icebergs and far off lands. Which animals can you see there? Lots of penguins. With fiery mountains and golden sands. There's lots of animals to spot here too. I think I'd like to go there. These are the waves that arched and crashed, that foamed and frolicked and sprayed and splashed the tiny snail on the tail of a whale. These are the caves, between the waves. What can you see in those caves? Where stripy fish with feathery fins and sharks with hideous toothy grins swam round the whale and the snail on his tail. This is the sky, so vast and high, sometimes sunny and blue and warm, sometimes filled with a thunderstorm, with zigzag lightning, flashing and frightening the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. And there, if you look closely, you can see that tiny snail clinging on. And she gazed at the sky, the sea and the land, the waves and the caves and the golden sand. She gazed and gazed, amazed by it all. And she said to the whale, "I feel so small." But then came the day the whale lost his way. These are the speedboats running a race, zigging and zooming all over the place, upsetting the whale with their ear-splitting roar, making him swim too close to the shore. This is the tide slipping away. Look. Oh dear. And this is the whale lying beached in a bay. Poor whale. "Quick, off the sand, back to sea," cried the snail. "I can't move on land, I'm too big," moaned the whale. The snail felt helpless and terribly small. Then, "I've got it," she cried and started to crawl. "I must not fail," said the tiny snail. There she is. This is the bell on the school in the bay, ringing the children in from their play. This is the teacher holding her chalk, telling the class, "Sit straight, don't talk." This is the board as black as soot. And this is the snail with the itchy foot, just there. "A snail, a snail!" The teacher turns pale. "Look," say the children, "it's leaving a trail." This is the trail of the tiny snail, a silvery trail saying, "Save the whale." These are the children running from school, fetching the fireman, digging a pool, squirting and spraying to keep the whale cool. Do you think the children can help the whale? I hope so. This is the tide coming into the bay. And these are the villagers shouting, "Hooray!" as the whale and the snail travel safely away. There they are, all waving. And the whale and the snail back in the sea. That was a good plan, wasn't it? Back to the dock and to the flock on the rock, who said, "How time's flown, and haven't you grown?" And the whale and the snail told their wonderful tale of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves, and of how the snail, so small and frail, with her looping, curling, silvery trail, saved the life of the humpback whale. Then the humpback whale held out his tail and on crawled snail after snail after snail. Do you think all the snails would like a ride now? Let's see them. There they are, all crawling onto the tail of the whale. And they sang to the sea as they all set sail on the tail of the grey-blue humpback whale. There they are. And that was the end of the story. Did you enjoy that story? It's wonderful how a creature so small as a snail was able to save the huge whale. Do you remember how the snail did it? That's right, the snail had been learning how to read and write. And that's something that you can do as well. So the snail wrote a message. I'm sure you could be busy this week thinking of notes and messages you could write, or even a postcard from somewhere you might like to travel to, just like that snail who travelled all the way around the world. Now, I've written a note for you here, and it says, "See you next time." I hope you've enjoyed that story. Bye.